Melbourne, pronounced Melbourne, is the second most populous city in Australia. Located around Port Phillip Bay in the country's southeast, Melbourne is the state capital of Victoria. Melbourne was founded by free settlers in 1835, 47 years after the first European settlement of Australia. Our first stop during our walking tour of Melbourne's central business district was at Queen Victoria Market, a staple in the community since 1878. There were rows of vendor stalls and charming shops to browse through. The Queen Victoria Market is a major landmark in Melbourne, and at around 17 acres is the largest open-air market in the Southern Hemisphere. The market is significant to Melbourne's culture and heritage and has been listed on the Victorian Heritage Register. The market is named after Queen Victoria, who ruled the British Empire from 1837 to 1901. The Swanston Square apartment tower bears the face of historic Aboriginal leader William Barrack. The 31-story building features an 85-meter-high portrait representation formed from white balconies against black windows of the southern and eastern facades. Now in view is the City Baths, an architecturally and historically significant building. The first building which housed public baths was opened in 1860. The objective was to stop people from bathing in the Yarra River, which by the 1850s had become quite polluted and the cause of an epidemic of typhoid fever which hit the city, resulting in many deaths. Lack of maintenance resulted in such deterioration of the building that the baths were closed in 1899. A new building was opened in 1904. The bath now houses a swimming pool, spa, sauna, squash courts and gymnasium. From elegant Victoria-era streetscapes to Manhattan-style skyscrapers as the Swanston Academic Building, part of the RMIT University. In the tram for a ride to City Square. Melbourne is home to the world's largest tram network. The foundation stone of this town hall building was laid in 1867 by the visiting Prince Alfred, Duke of Edinburgh. It officially opened in 1870 with a lavish ball. The Manchester Unity Building is a neo-Gothic skyscraper constructed in 1932. "120 Collins Street is a post-modern style building paying homage to New York City's grand Art Deco buildings, such as the Empire State Building and the Chrysler Building. This influence can be seen in the building's granite facade, its setbacks and its central mast. With a height of 220 meters plus a 45-meter spire on top, it was the tallest for 14 years until it was surpassed by the Q1 in 2005. It remained the tallest building in Melbourne until being surpassed by the Eureka Tower in 2006. It is currently the third tallest building in Australia. The city square is a pedestrian plaza and former civic centre located in the central business district of Melbourne. The Burke and Wills statue 1864 by Charles Summers adorns the square. Melbourne Town Hall 1870 and St. Paul's Cathedral 1891 are prominent landmarks to the north and south respectively. The square has been redeveloped several times and associated with a number of controversies over the years. Monument to Captain Matthew Flinders, an English navigator and cartographer who was the first to circumnavigate Australia and identify it as a continent. Flinders made 3 voyages to the Southern Ocean between 1791 and 1810. In the second voyage, George Bass and Flinders confirmed that Van Diemen's Land, now Tasmania, was an island. In the third voyage, Flinders circumnavigated the mainland of what was to be called Australia. Melbourne has a wide range of religious faiths, the most widely held of which is Christianity. This is signified by the city's 2 large cathedrals, St. Patrick's Roman Catholic and St. Paul's Anglican. Both were built in the Victorian era and are of considerable heritage significance as major landmarks of the city. St. Paul's is built in a revival of the style known as Gothic Transitional, being partly early English and partly decorated. The floors are of imported marble and alabaster with richly patterned tiles.
And his death and resurrection and his coming again and his call for radical discipleship. Those things don't change as the world changes. And down through the history of the church, people have tried to add or subtract to these truths, to this faith.
The fractured and fragmented facades of the modern buildings at Federation Square are a sharp contrast to the more traditional structures all around it. The Eureka Tower is a 297.3-meter skyscraper completed in 2006. It is named after the Eureka Stockade, a rebellion during the Victorian Gold Rush in 1854. The building's gold crown represents the gold rush, and the red stripe represents the blood spilled during the revolt. The blue glass cladding that covers most of the building represents the blue background of the Stockade's flag. The white horizontal stripes represent markings on the surveyor's measuring staff. The Flinders Street main station building, completed in 1909, is a cultural icon in Melbourne. With its prominent dome, arched entrance, tower and clocks, is one of the city's most recognizable landmarks. It is listed on the Victorian Heritage Register. The Melbourneian idiom "I will meet you under the clocks" refers to the row of clocks above the main entrance, which indicate the timetabled time of departure for trains on each line. The complex covers 2 whole city blocks and extends from Swanston Street to Queen Street. Here is a close-up picture of the beautiful clock tower. Flinders Street Station is the busiest station in Melbourne's metropolitan network and the busiest railway station in Australia. It was the first railway station in an Australian city and the world's busiest passenger station in the late 1920s. In no particular order, I will post pictures I captured from the advantage point of the tour bus window as we rode along the streets of Melbourne.
I could tell that the fellow was a Kiwi as he danced the Maori haka and sang the Makari Ariana all night long. We were having a drink together in a pub on Bondi Beach, and as he dodged a flying jug, he sang this song. We come over here from New Zealand, the land of the long white cone, and he sang the Kiwi national song, I still call Australia home. I could tell that the fellow was a Kiwi in a pub called the Swinging Arms as he polished off a monstrous plate of fish and chips. We then cashed in our dough checks and settled in for a drink. We were spinning yarns and exchanging ribald quips. We come over here from New Zealand, the land of the long white cone, and he sang the Kiwi national song, I still call Australia home. I could tell that the fellow was a Kiwi in his Richard Hadley t-shirt as he strolled to Bay 13 at the MCG. On his feet he wore his jandals and he clutched his chili bun, and the boys all give him a score of -3. We come over here from New Zealand, the land of the long white cone, and he sang the Kiwi national song, I still call Australia home. I could tell that the fella was a Kiwi when we had a game of rugby and accepted his challenge like a stupid mob of fools. And as the All Black pack surged over us and I lay in a pool of blood, I asked, would you like to learn Australian rules? As back and forth we struggled, heading for a scoreless draw, they balled us in the scrimmages and the rucks. Just at the final whistle, they got a converted try. The score Australia 0, New Zealand sucks. We come over here from New Zealand, the land of the long white cone, and he sang the Kiwi national song, I still call Australia home. I could tell that the fellow was a Kiwi when we talked about our granddads and we found our anzacs together in World War I. So I bought the lad a butcher of the finest Aussie beer, and magnanimously I said, you're welcome, son. We come.
After a day packed with activities, we made it back to Station Pier, a historic Australian pier on Port Phillip in Port Melbourne. Opened in 1854, the pier is Melbourne's primary passenger terminal, servicing interstate ferries and cruise ships, and is listed on the Victorian Heritage Register. As the Celebrity Solstice set sail towards Sydney, where we would disembark, we were able to capture video, clips and close-up pictures of the beautiful Melbourne's skyline. Early that evening, Ove enjoyed the company of a nice couple from Norway. Dinner was at the Grand Epernay dining room. Tonight's show, a visual concert celebrating the progression of musical genres, inspired by one of the greatest musical minds in history, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Reversed, remixed, reimagined.
Or what you were. When you get your brain about the future heart, it just dissolves into a lifelong blood.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was